Android Dream of Electric Sheep? That was the title of a book written by Philip K. Dick in 1968, and on the basis of this novel, the Blade Runner franchise was born. To elaborate on the title question, I'd like to ask another. Does the fact that being is of synthetic origin make its dreams less unreal and mist than those of humans? And if not, can it be that the synthetic being, in its will to survive, to dream, to love and to be loved, becomes more human than us in our judgment of the monopolization of humanity? This is the main philosophy of the Blade Runner franchise, but I want to focus on the more misunderstood part of the whole story. And surprisingly, it is a message that it is not the predestined greatness that matters, but our choices. In the first part of Blade Runner, Deckard, the main character of the story, is a Blade Runner on the hunt for 5 fugitive Nexus 6 replicants that have escaped from a mining colonies on Mars. Regardless of the estimated lifespan of 4 years, they are to be retired earlier because of the threat to humanity. During his investigation, Deckard meets a replicant named Rachel, with whom he falls in love. The only way to distinguish a replicant from a human is to perform a Voigtkampf test.
Care if I talk? I get kind of nervous when I take tests.
Just please don't move.
Which is supposed to trigger an emotional response in humans, something androids supposedly lack, because they can't learn emotions in their short lifespan. Contrary to what we are told, we can clearly see that Roy Batty and Pris, 200 replicants, have formed a bond reminiscent of their human love. On a journey to extend their lifespan, they are ruthless and show no emotions when killing humans, but when confronted with Tyler, their creator, Roy kills him, not for any particular reason, but out of a need of revenge and immense rage, feelings that are so human and yet inhumane. In the final scene of the film, where Deckard becomes the prey and Roy the hunter, the roles switch, and not just because of the fight. It is a wonderfully artistic way to show us that the protagonist is no longer the Blade Runner who hunted the androids, but the android who is now hunting him. And it does not feel that way until the final scene, where Roy, in his cold-bloodedness, decides to show mercy to Deckard, who has murdered his companions and his only love. It shows us how even a single decision by a dying man can have an enormous impact, if not material then symbolic. In his final act of mercy, Roy shows that replicants can be even more human than the Deckard. His sacrifice is compared to Jesus's when his hand is pierced with a nail. His possession of soul then becomes clear when he releases a dove out of his hands with his last breath as it flies into the sky. All these things will be lost, as Roy fears, in his famous speech in the Valley.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
But by his decision to show mercy and save Deckard from falling, he cements his position as a human being, or at least being with a soul, and not only that, he also converts Deckard and makes him run away with Rachel, whom he truly loved. All of this creates an opportunity for the events of the sequel, Blade Runner 2049, which introduces us to a completely new character, Detective K, or as his girlfriend calls him, Joe. In the case of Deckard, we did not know if he is an android or a human. This question caused a lot of discussion among the fans. In the case of Joe, we and he himself know that he is just a replicant in a world where humans in their arrogance put themselves higher in the hierarchy discriminating against androids, as shown in many scenes of the movie. K is a Blade Runner, but his first encounter with a replicant in a movie sows a seed of doubts when he gets an idea of a replicant's ability to create life the way humans do. Joe, with his name, is created exposable. Just like a keyboard or a toaster, he is a gear in a system, interchangeable and insignificant. Just like us. This is exactly why we sympathize with his greed for emotions and his loneliness. He is made to fill a role, which is perfectly shown in his dialogue with his superior who orders him to kill the miracle child of a replicant.
I've never retired something that was born before.
What's the difference?
To be born is to have a soul, I guess.
Are you telling me no?
I wasn't aware that was an option, madam.
Attaboy. Hey, you've been getting on fine without one.
What's that, madam?
A soul.
After each mission, he even has to undergo a test to make sure he has no signs of individuality in him.
Cells.
Cells.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
Cells.
Interlinked.
Interlinked.
What's it like to hold the hand of someone you love? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do they teach you how to feel finger to finger? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you long for having your heart interlinked? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you dream about being interlinked?
Interlinked.
What's it like to hold your child in your arms? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you feel that there's a part of you that's missing? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Within cells, interlinked.
Within cells interlinked.
Why don't you say that 3 times? Within cells, interlinked.
Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked.
We're done.
But in all his despair, he finds a light of hope. In his memories, which he keeps close to the hearth, but which are placed in his head manually, he finds a wooden horse. The horse turns out to be real. Hidden in a furnace at the dump, it gives Joe hope that he may be a special child born of a replicant. However, that hope is destroyed as his lover, Joy, when he tries to track down his supposed father, and it turns out the child is a female. Then he gets another assignment from someone superior to him, leader of Android Rebellion. The assignment is to kill Deckard, who, along with Rachel, created the firstborn android. But he rebels against this, against his own kind trying to instigate a revolution. Just as he rejected his order to kill the child, in his final act of defiance, he rescues Deckard and reunites him with his daughter. The man, destroyed by life, shaken by fate, who has lost everything, still has his own will to decide what is wrong and what is good. With his final decision, he summons the fate of Deckard and the prodigy who gives hope to others. In his initially insignificant life, the decision he has made has allowed others to survive and has allowed him to bring the family together. It could be said that Joe is not important, and this is even emphasized when he meets an ad from Joy, his lost girlfriend, calling him Joe because this is what he supposedly calls all the replicants who bought her. This shows that he is nothing special, just another android destined to die, fulfilling his role in society. And we can easily draw a false nihilistic conclusion that nothing matters at all. But the moral is quite different. In my opinion, Blade Runner 2049 is a story about a useless and significant man who gives meaning to his life with his own choices and achieves catharsis with courageous actions, risking everything and sacrificing himself for others. Just like his predecessor Roy, who made it all possible through his mercy, like the characters of Blade Runner, we should strive to not be another gear in society, but to raise our heads higher and finally make a decision, because our choices matter.